dredge mirror between the tour's two top teams. Winner of this. Looks like this one should just be for a top 8 spot. As I said before, not guaranteed. But this one's going to be, the winner of this is going to be on the bubble.
Right, going to have to sweat it out.
Yeah, maybe the winner of this is the 8 seed. It's looking like something along those lines. They're going to have to win and maintain a tiebreaker lead over the 2 matches playing beneath them. Likely to do it.
Yeah.
But we will let you know
For
as
now,
we know.
got some magic to play.
I would say it's likely this is a win and in.
They're certainly not drawing into top 16.
No, not at this point. For Jacob Baugh, 13th in the Player of the Year race. He's a name that we really haven't seen much on the tour, I would say, in the last 3 months. Remember, he did have a open win this year with Rally.
Yep.
But at 13th, a win this weekend, a top 8 and a win, would put him in the Players' Championship conversation.
And Jacob Baugh, another very tight technical player. And typically you see him playing the good cards deck, but Dredge has just gotten good enough where he thinks this is where he wants to be. He's more of a Jund player mostly. He played a lot of decks like Abzan Company, of course, as you mentioned, his win with Rally the Ancestors. But Dredge just over the edge for him. And as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Jim Davis, of course, leaving his general comfort zone to go to Dredge. These are really big endorsements to see these 2 players picking up this deck for this weekend. And one of them likely to get a top 8 berth for it.
Jim going to 6 here. Now, I've seen a lot of Dredge mirrors in Legacy before, not necessarily in Modern. Mulliganing doesn't seem to matter much in them. I would think in this matchup, the most important card is Cathartic Reunion. It's who can do the biggest, most broken thing.
The mulligans for Modern Dredge matter more than any other format. Where in Vintage, it's Bazaar, Bust. In Legacy, there's a lot of stuff that you can find. You know, things like Lion's Eye Diamond, Faithless Looting can be a really big find. And doesn't matter really how many cards you go through to get there, and there's a lot of really powerful stuff. But in Modern, you need to hit land drops. You need to get 1, 2, 3 lands onto the battlefield. Sometimes we've seen these players need to get up to 4 to cast Light from the Loam and Flashback Conflagrate on the same turn. So this is the most interesting format in terms of Dredge mulligans. And Jim, of course, mulligans here, Scries to the bottom. And the players have to go ahead and start battling.
So I need to make a correction earlier here. There's been some pair down in the standings here because of people play each other. Caleb Durward does not have his top 8 spot locked up just yet. We'll let you know as we know more. Jim Davis starts 6 card on the play. Faithless Looting is going to be his play. Discards 2 prized amalgams, says go.
So those are good cards to have in your graveyard, but notably no Dredger as of yet.
Insolent Neonate from Jacob. Jim has some of the important cards. It looks like Cathartic Reunion in his hand. He'll draw for turn. It's Life from the Loam. So he has Loam, land.
Can't cast
Neonate. Loam. Oh, wow. Both lands are black-red.
Reunion's big here, though.
Well, it's almost the only thing. I guess he could cast that or Neonate. And nothing else is castable here. No Loam, no Narcomoeba.
Yeah, being able to discard the Loam to the Reunion will at least get him a Dredger. And it's going to be the first draw for the Reunion. So if he gets a little bit lucky here, finds an Imp or a Grave Troll off that, he can really start getting things underway. There's some argument for using the Neonate to dredge the Loam first. That way you could potentially have more cracks at it when it's time to cast Reunion. You'll have seen more cards.
Insolent Neonate's the play for Jim. Okay, so he's going to play it, immediately sack it to dredge the Loam. So he discard and draws off it. Dackmore Salvage, Narcomoeba, stomping on. What a hit for Jim Davis. This was a high-risk line, but boy, did he get paid off for it.
Well, this was the conservative line over casting Reunion because he's seeing more cards before he has to commit to the Reunion. Given that he did not find Imp or Grave Troll, he was paid off for his patience.
Now he makes the land drop. He will get both of those amalgams. Yeah, before end step, Jacob's going to go ahead and use Insolent Neonate now. He's doing it before end step so that if he hits a prized amalgam, he'll get to have it for next turn. He mills 6, but does not hit very much action. He has more dredgers.
Yep, finding the Grave Troll is big, but he has to start getting action that's better than that.
So for his turn, he'll dredge Grave Troll. He dredges a Bloodghast, a prized amalgam, 2 Conflagrates, and a Stinkweed Imp. We're now on Jacob's second turn.
Not bad. Needs to start getting some bodies onto the battlefield, as Jim is currently ahead in that race.
Yeah, a land should put the Bloodghast into play alongside the prized amalgam. As he's on the draw, Jacob is behind right now.
And his hand started off better because he had the turn 1 Neonate and a Grave Troll, but Jim's hits so far have been better than Baugh's.
Well, a reunion would catch him up, and here it is. Land Bloodghast for Jacob. This is a big turn. Discards 2 Grave Trolls to Cathartic Reunion, so he's going to dredge at least 12. Here come the first 6. It is a Scourge Devil, 4 lands, and a Faithless Looting. Here is another 6 off Grave Troll, 2 Narcomoebas, and a prized amalgam. Looks like he has a third draw. No Grave Troll, but an Imp. So mill of 17 hits another Bloodghast and a Stinkweed Imp. So keeping a score here, it looks like we have 2 prized amalgams, 2 Narcomoebas, and a ton of dredgers for next turn.
Yep, suddenly his position's looking a lot better.
Yeah, and talk about, this is where Cathartic Reunion might be the best card in the matchup. His deck he's doing bigger things. He's milling himself faster.
And Jim does still have Cathartic Reunion in his hand. He needs to hit as good as Jacob now. Though currently, Jacob just on the 2 amalgams, Jim also on 2 amalgams, and that's the kind of parity that's the most important in this matchup.
Now, next turn, and you're going to want to keep track of this. This is a spicy one of in Jacob's deck. When he gets to 3 mana, he has the option to unearth this one of Scourge Devil. It's a common from Shards of Alara that he's playing. In this matchup, it actually looks like that could be a game changer. So the 3/3 for 5, we'll get on screen here. When he enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. And look at the army Jacob has already made.
The Scourge itself will have haste because of the unearth ability and does pump itself. So gets a 4/3, makes these Narcomoebas into 2/1, and Narcomoeba, prized amalgam, and I suppose Insolent Neonate are the only creatures that can block in this matchup.
So Jim on his turn dredges Dakmor Salvage into Golgari Grave Troll and Insolent Neonate. And look at the size of the 2 players' graveyards. Jim's keeping pace on the board, but his engine is just not as big here.
Well, he has a Grave Troll in graveyard already and the Cathartic Reunion in hand.
Okay, so it's his turn to flip over the deck?
We'll see what we find.
I'm looking forward to it.
A lot of pressure on these first 6 cards when he dredges this Grave Troll.
What Jim has to decide is he attacking or blocking? It looks like he's going to try to race as opposed to blocking, so here comes 7 power from Jim's side. Will Jacob make any blocks? Bloodghast cannot block, but the 2 Narcomoebas can.
I'm curious about making this attack before dredging. I suppose you're disguising information from Baugh, so maybe he really wants Baugh to block, is kind of the impression that I'm getting. Worried about these Narcomoebas getting Scourge Deviled up.
So now Jacob's starting to count. So we have 2 3/3s, 2 1/1s, and a 2/1. So that's 10 power. Scourge Devil would make it 15. It's 19 with the Scourge Devil. Just the unearth alone on this board. Jacob's going to trade Narcomoebas anyway. That looks too good to be true. There's no way Jim's opening the door to 19 damage. Cathartic Reunion from Jim. All right, it's his turn. A much less impressive discard, though. It's Life from the Loam and Grave Troll. Might not matter, though. So first of 3 draws, he'll dredge Grave Troll. Here comes 6 cards. Conflagrate, Amalgam, Neonate, Shriekhorn, Mana Confluence, and a land. Okay, 3 more from Loam. This is his last dredger.
These are very important.
Blood Crypt. Haha, land and Grave Troll on the 3rd one. 6 more for Jim.
These 6 have to be good, though. Narcomoeba would be great.
1, 2, 3. Another Conflagrate, a Loam, a Narcomoeba, and a prized amalgam. You know, Jim's deck is just teasing him. It's holding out until the very last cards on each dredge. So Narcomoeba enters the battlefield. You see there's the last 2 amalgams in the deck are put over to the side, so he will have all 4 of his 3/3s. But they'll all be tapped. He does get 1 blocker in that Narcomoeba, so it doesn't look like he's going to take 20 to Scourge Devil. I think he'll take at least 15 if Jacob swings the team, but maybe that's fine.
And Jim is really being rewarded if you rewind to the turn 2 decision between Insolent Neonate and Cathartic Reunion. He took the line that gets him just a little bit deeper in his deck. You saw the third card on Life from the Loam was the Grave Troll.
And what I like about it is, so you were right, it's a more conservative play, but what it meant is that because it hit, then this turn his Cathartic Reunion got to be great. He got to mill 15. If he uses the Reunion in the other way, then next turn he neonates. There's no punch to it.
Right.
So no attack from Jim. He'll pass and, well, I can't, sorry, it does not have haste. We're in post-combat. Apologies here. He's going to pass. He has one blocker and the full set of amalgams waiting to lurch on over next turn. We're on Baugh's third turn.
Baugh at 14 versus 12 power of amalgams and a Narc Amoeba.
He looks like he's just going to draw for the turn.
Possible looking for land number 3.
Usually when they draw at this point in the game, land is the only thing they're looking for. Everything else is castable out of, it's better off in the graveyard anyway.
Right. This is not the match. He's not necessarily looking at it to 5. I don't think this is going to be a Grave Troll hard cast kind of game, but getting the 3 mana will matter for flashing back Faithless Looting, for unearthing that Scourge Devil.
Looks like Jacob's going to try to put the brakes on. Just swings Bloodghast. Jim goes to 18. And this is one of the things where I talked about mulligans. So, okay, yeah, Jim was on, 6 on the play. Look how little these extra cards in Jacob's hand matter.
They technically matter for Conflagrate.
Yeah, they are 1 point of damage. Jacob will cast Life from the Loam for the turn, out of hand. Gets 3 lands back. Plays Copperline Gorge. Gets back a Bloodghast. Then plays Insolent Neonate. Still has 7 in hand, so it does not look like he has to discard. But a full grip as he passes the turn, hoping that these 2 amalgams and Neonate will do some blocking for him. And he's really got to watch out, because with Conflagrate in Jim's hand, he might still have Jacob dead.
Looks like 4 cards in hand, drawing up to 5. Won't be able to cast a Life from the Loam and flashback Conflagrate on this turn, but can still do some serious damage.
Right. If he shoots the 2 1/1s, 3 upstairs, Jacob would go to 11. And there's 7 damage coming through unblocked. It's close, but it's not there. So Jim will dredge Life from the Loam for the turn. He hits a land, a Stinkweed Imp, and another Life from the Loam. Remember, he still has no green mana, so he can't cast any of these Loams. He's just trying to put cards in the graveyard. See his hand, Dackmore Salvage, and a fistful of green cards. Two Loams and 2 Trolls.
Yeah, he'll have to take a turn off if he wants to. I suppose he can put his land on the battlefield tapped with the Dackmore Salvage. There's not much else he can do. He can cast the Conflagrate and then have action to do something for 3 mana on the following turn.
Because he dredged Loam here, I think Conflagrate is really his only play.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't have any green mana. He can't cast the Loam.
Yeah, he was committing to that when he dredged Loam. I guess if that's the case, I'm somewhat surprised that Jim didn't just draw.
Yeah, I think that what he might be looking for more than anything is some Bloodghast to apply more pressure. Because he's already milled through 3 of his Narc Amoebas and all of his prized amalgams. That's
so it's just Bloodghast.
Really what he has to be looking for.
Yeah, the only other thing he can draw out of the deck would be a green source. So either he wants, so his options there where he could try to mill for Bloodghast or draw for green source, and he chose to mill. That's respectable.
Looking at 3 cards to find any of his Bloodcasts.
So now Jim's reading the Scourge Devil. We'll do the same. Yeah, when it enters the battlefield, creatures Jacob controls get +1/+0. That card is getting very scary here.
Yeah, the important line of text is that Scourge Devil does not give other creatures haste. It itself has haste from Unearthed, but Baugh won't be able to add more Bloodghast and give him haste because of the Scourge Devil or anything like that.
So here's the Conflagrate play from Jim. It's 5 damage total. He's going to go 1 to Neonate, 1 to Narc Amoeba, and we'll see where the other 3 are going. While those are on the stack, Jacob is going to sacrifice Neonate to use the ability. Discard and draw. Discard Grave Troll, dredge Grave Troll.
Looking for a Narcomoeba to block with, and he hits pretty big here.
Amoeba, Amalgam, Dark Blast. A main deck Dark Blast for Jacob Baugh.
Dark Blast not looking like a factor in this game.
Yeah, there is one in the main, though. Neat choice. So he hits those 2 cards. Looks like the last points of damage from Conflagrate went to take care of one of the prized Amalgams. So keep in mind that that Dredge and Narcomoeba trigger happened with the Conflagrate on the stack. So the prized Amalgam that died right now, I do not believe comes back.
Yeah, it did not see the fresh Narcomoeba enter the battlefield. It will trigger off the Amalgam at the end step here,
right?
But that won't be until Baugh's next end step.
Right, because it was still alive when the Narcomoeba jumped out. So
Jim's thinking, do I just have to block?
The attack's not lethal, right?
And
yeah.
Jim's not winning this game by blocking, though. The Scourge Devil will make it so the Bloodghast can eat up the Amalgams even.
So prized Amalgam comes out of the graveyard on end step.
And Jim's out of cards, and he cannot cast Life from the Loam anymore. He just has 1 Narcomoeba left in his graveyard, or left in his deck. And he has to get Bloodghast in his graveyard and a land into his hand.
Baugh dredges Loam for the turn, flips 3 lands. He's pulling ahead. What I like about Baugh's position is that if they just start playing land go, I think Baugh wins.
Yes.
Right. Jim's out of stuff. What, next turn he can draw off the top of the deck, or he can dredge a uncastable green card. Whatever. I guess Jim has to draw off the top and hope to hit a land for a Faithless Looting.
He could dredge Dackmore Salvage and hope to hit Bloodghasts with it.
So Jacob will keep putting pressure on the 2 Bloodghasts swing. I mean, Jim can block them. He probably blocks them.
Just taking 4 seems not ideal, but you would give more oomph to a Conflagrate from Baugh by blocking.
Oh, because the conflict could sweep through on the Amalgams.
Right.
Jacob is actually he's saying, I'll let you know when attacks are final. It looks like the attack is going to be 2 Bloodghasts, Amalgam, and Narcomoeba. I like that Jacob is trying to trade these 3/3s right now.
Yeah. Jacob is demonstrating the ability to recur his Amalgams. Jim is not. Really interesting definition of the role, because Jacob is both the aggressor in terms of the person he's making the attacks, but he's also the player with longevity here.
Yeah, this mirror match is really neat. I've said this a lot about mirror matches, is I think in Magic's history, mirrors tend to be among the least interesting games of Magic you can play and the most interesting games.
Certainly.
This dredge mirror seems pretty great.
I don't know that Jim Davis would agree with you if you were to ask him right now.
How about this? There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of play. You know, there are some mirrors, like, I'll play with the Valakut mirror. That stinks. Okay? We just both ramp, and it's like, you play Prime Titan first, you win. And that's kind of the game. This is way cooler. There's a lot more skill going on. So we see an Amalgam block a Bloodghast, an Amalgam block a Bloodghast. The Narcomoebas trade. Jim declines to trade Amalgams, though. So he takes 3, goes to 5. Looks like he takes 3. And land from Baugh gets back the Bloodghasts.
Here comes a big Conflagrate. A lot of cards in that
big old Conflagrate. And he's going to pitch some cards. So remember, there's 2 points of damage on 2 of the Amalgams. That is going to matter here.
Yep. Conflagrate doesn't have any kind of weird restrictions on splitting up the damage. You just do 1 to a thing and 1 to a different thing at no cost, and more damage to another thing at no cost. Just all about the number of cards you discard.
8. So 8 is pretty nice. That is the combined toughness of all the Amalgams. So, all right, he shoots them all.
But Jim's just dead to Scourge Devil. He can't make any more than potentially
they're gonna
one
come back
unblocked
tapped,
blocker.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's dead.
He has 1 Narcomoeba in his deck, which, sure, that can block, but the Amalgams will re-enter the battlefield tapped.
Cool. All right. Jacob Baugh looks like he's going to take the first game here over Jim Davis.
Jim's thinking about what he can do. He can dredge Grave Troll, find an Archamoeba. Maybe something happens and, I don't know, Baugh accidentally mills an entire deck. And, yep, Jim picks him up, doesn't find the Archamoeba even to make one more block.
So game 1 to Jacob Baugh of Team Card Hoarder. And what a game it was. All right. So this matchup has a lot of play. I'm excited to see how this goes. Now, these post-board games are going to be very different, mainly because of a certain 4 of in both players' sideboards, and that's Leyline of the Void.
This is just going to define the entire texture of all of the sideboard games. It's a curious question. You know, both players have Nature's Claims. Jim has 3, Jacob has 2. Do you even fight that fight? I'm not convinced that you do, though maybe you just have to. For many dredge players, they say, don't bother trying to beat Leyline of the Void. I think that that's different when you're talking about the mirror. You're trying to mulligan into your own ley lines. Just keeping a 7 that's just doing a little bit of dredging, probably unacceptable. It's bad enough where you just want to mulligan specifically into leyline. So you probably are going to be bringing in these Nature's Claims and these Golgari Charms. Baugh has access to 2 of those, none on Davis's side.
So Baugh has, we have 4 ways on Baugh's side to blow up a leyline, and we have 3 ways on Jim's side, so it's pretty close.
Yep, so Jim's bringing in 4 Leyline of the Void, 3 Nature's Claim. The rest of the sideboard, 2 Replicate, 2 Dark Blast, an Ancient Grudge, a Nod of the Bone, a Collective Brutality, a Vengeful Pharaoh. None of this looks particularly interesting.
Yeah, Pharaoh's not castable.
You could maybe Nod of the Bone. I don't like it. Jacob Baugh has his own 4 ley lines, 2 Collective Brutality, an Ancient Grudge, a Lightning Axe, his own Nod of the Bone, 2 Nature's Claim, 2 Golgari Charm, 2 Abrupt Decay.
So the only sideboarding they're doing is leyline plus ways to blow up leyline. That part's simple. What I wonder is how does this affect gameplay, though? So if we assume that there's going to be a lot of, I guess, ley lines happening on both sides, does that change what I want to see in my opener, and does it change my mulligans?
You're probably more interested in a hand that has 3 lands that can cast Prize Amalgam than you are in the typical Insolent Neonate Golgari Grave Troll kind of hand.
So one thing I'm noticing about Dredge, so in Legacy, you used to see people go on Stinkweed Imp Beatdown a lot, right? I don't think I've seen a Stinkweed Imp cast for 3 mana all weekend.
No.
Just never.
Yeah, Amalgam's just an upgrade for that plan.
Right, but we're in a post-board game here with lots of ley lines. Does Stinkweed Imp become a creature again? Does this now matter?
I expect that if we have 2 more games in this matchup, you'll see at least 1 Stinkweed Imp hardcast.
All right. Well, for Jacob Baugh, now 1 win from the top 8. We talked about earlier, the member of Team Card Hoarder, already with 1 Open Series win this weekend. From Waterloo, Illinois, the 27-year-old has 10 Open top 8s. He's won 2 Opens. This really has been the breakout year, I think, for him. On Team Lotus last year, he was kind of one of their academy players, one of the lesser-known names, and has just upgraded to the main roster. He's one of the feared members of the team.
Very tight technical player. Very jovial person, too.
Yeah.
Really fun to hang around with Jacob.
Looking for that 11th top 8. Of all the players with 10 top 8s, I think he has kept the lowest profile doing it.
Sure.
You know.
He's very unassuming. You know, he's like 8 feet tall.
Yeah. he's the smallest 8 for like.
But he doesn't walk around and demand that people pay attention to him.
Yeah, and look at this. You wouldn't think it. Both these players in the top 16 for the Player of the Year race. You wouldn't think that Baugh was currently ahead of Jim Davis, but that's the truth of the matter. At 163 points here, Jacob Baugh has a fighter's chance of getting one of those at-large spots to the Players' Championship. Imagine that Jacob wins this weekend. That's going to put him all the way up near Todd Stevens in the standings.
Yeah.
And those points are no joke.
Yeah, that is a significant amount of points. We go from 163 up to 193, jump over even Caleb Shearer on this board here. Todd Stevens, of course, picking up some points himself, but...
yeah, keep in mind an open win is 30 points. So you add 30 to Jacob Baugh, he moves into 6th. And the top 3 people on this leaderboard go to the Players' Championship in Roanoke. So there's a lot riding on this match for Jacob.
Yes.
And he's 1 game in. A big tournament this weekend. As you said before, we believe this is for top 8. There is a lot of mess at the top of the standings here. Player here likely to get in, but we will, of course, have our final announcement. We tweet that out at the conclusion of the round.
You saw both players really taking their time on their opening sevens. You know, this matchup, your opening hand, so important in this post-sideboard, Leyline of the Void, graveyard-centric matchup. Jim decides he's happy with his. Baugh's going down to 6.
Saw before, Jim was on a mulligan last game, but they're really, you know, I guess if both players get leylined by the other one, then mulligans might start to matter again.
My read on Jim
He got a leyline.
is that no, he took too much time to have a very functional leyline hand. So
Okay.
I don't think that Jim has leyline based on his posturing.
So if you want to have a non-leylined hand, if you had a hand that's a good dredge hand plus a nature's claim, like that's probably a keep, right?
I'd say so.
You know, it's some one of those keepable non-leyline hands. Baugh going down to 5.
It's possible that Jim also has a barely functioning leyline hand. Those are the kind of the range that I'm looking at for thinking that long about that hand.
Baugh contemplating the 5 here. You can't actually just mulligan to a 4 of. I mean, you can try. If that's your strategy, the fail rate's uncomfortably high. Baugh going to 4.
Well, the issue is that the leyline doesn't just win the game. It's very powerful.
Right.
It's oppressively powerful, but Jim doesn't just have to pick up his cards because you have a leyline. Going to see a lot of Nessian coursers in combat, just like we did in game 1.
So we'll see if he gets a keepable 4. I mean, okay, 4 cards. It's hard to win in just any format on 4. If Jacob has a uncontested leyline on Jim, think he can win on 4?
Uncontested leyline is great. He has to actually make some land drops and actually facilitate some dredging. Part of the problem with leyline is as you draw cards, if you can't dredge, if you draw more leylines, that's terrible.
Both players have one this game. I think. All right, which one do you like more? Who's ahead right now?
Obviously, Jacob. He has the Guild Pact version.
Yeah, so his is the older one, and I normally give. I agree with you, but I do want to say here is that I actually like the art more on the Corset one, so I'm gonna give Jim the edge.
Boo. Just root for the guy with 7 cards.
No, older's usually better. I just this to me seems more like what a Leyline of the Void would look like. I don't know. Okay,
No.
What do you guys? All right.
Look at those lines on the floor.
Nah.
There's none of that liney business on the other one. Just laying there, being all liney.
Well, no graveyards for anyone. They're just going to trade some land drops. You know, ley lines, they're mystical, right? That doesn't actually mean like I draw straight lines on the art.
The other one's just a swamp.
Yeah, that's where these magical ley lines would live. Bloodghast is the play for Jim. Turn 2, off Mana Confluence. He's going to play a 2-1.
A lot of pressure on Jacob to set up a 3-mana 3/3.
2 mana for Jacob. He's going to play Narcomoeba. Well, he's got a blocker.
There we go.
The 2/1/1 flyer played into the 2/1.
These are pretty weird looking draft decks.
I do like one of the advantages here for Jim is that his Mana Confluence I think is going to be better than this Gemstone Mine for Jacob.
Yes. Especially when on the mulligan to 4, Gemstone Mine punishes you a lot more than taking some damage off your land. You lose actual material the 3rd time you activate it. Looks like Jim has an Insolent Neonate here.
Frank Vanderwall, please report to side event registration. Frank Vanderwall, side event registration.
So, Jim, he's debating his Insolent Neonate and Faithless Looting. He's going to cast Looting. This is pretty easy. He's got a Life from the Loam in his hand. That's a pretty easy discard. So is this... Oh, interesting. So is this other Leyline of the Void, but...
Picking up this Nature's Claim, that's everything.
That's good. That's good.
Jim
It's danger for Jacob Baugh.
Jim will have to discard before he can activate it, but hey, pitch the Slay line. You won't miss that one in
If
exile.
both players are playing Piker aggro, it's a fair match. But if it's Piker aggro versus Dredge, I'm going to go ahead and give the advantage to Dredge.
That is a pretty fair assessment.
interesting. He's going to swing the Bloodghast. And I like this block, but before damage, he claims away Jacob's Leyline. Great play.
And Baugh has no mental misstep, likely
No.
because the card is banned in Modern.
Yep. So, Nature's Claim, yeah. Checking with the judge. Claim is in there. So when you do this, Nature's Claim does actually get to go to the graveyard.
The Leyline will, of course, be exiled because Jim's effect is exiling it.
Yeah, it's destroyed during the resolution of the spell. So by the time the spell is done resolving and checking where it's going to go, there's no Leyline. So it says, all right, I go to the graveyard.
Yep.
Jim then plays a third land. It is Copperline Gorge. He plays Insolent Neonate and, of course, gets that Bloodghast back. Blackleaf Cliffs from Baugh, no plays.
And it's not just a matter of Leyline to no Leyline. It's also just board presence to no board presence as well. Jim is got an advantage on all fronts. Of course, has the mulligan to 4 to credit to some extent.
Now he's playing Dredge. End step, he sacks the Neonate to discard and draw that life from the loam. And now here comes Stinkweed Imp. 5 more cards into the graveyard for Jim. Grave Troll, Leyline, Stinkweed Imp, Prized Amalgam. Nothing yet, but he's building up value. Every turn is going to add more cards to the yard. Bloodghast swings in. Now Jacob, with a 4th land, maybe could recast a Leyline of the Void. That would be pretty great, but he's got to have it.
He's got to be able to beat this hardcast Stinkweed Imp.
There we go. First time hardcast Stinkweed Imp, the 1/2 mostly Death Touch-like creature. And Jacob going to go Guard Charm away Jim's Leyline.
Okay.
So now it's Dredge v. Dredge. Okay. Jacob's behind, but he's got a chance. Draws and just passes the turn, though. No graveyard, nothing to dredge with yet for Jacob. He did mull to 4.
And it shouldn't take long for Jim to start snowballing here as he dredges a Grave Troll.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gets 2 Bloodghasts, another Grave Troll. So Grave Troll into hand.
A Faithless Looting.
Yeah, swings for 3 here. He's got life from the loam. I think that's just a straightforward play. He's going to loam for some lands, but that's going to set off a chain reaction. Gets 2 lands in hand. Land into play will get these Bloodghasts back. Bloodghasts will trigger the Prized Amalgam. We're going to go to a quick 3 here if Jacob doesn't have something great.
And there's no tool that he could have to really deal with this board.
Anger of the Gods. He doesn't play it.
No.
Draws another Leyline. He'll Cathartic Reunion, discarding his hand. So that's why Jacob had no plays last turn. His hand, 2-card hand, was Cathartic Reunion, Cathartic Reunion.
Not enough cards to discard.
Yeah, you just can't cast him. And Jacob's going to scoop it up. So Jim evens out the score 1 game apiece, and we're going to go to a decider here between the 2 players.
So there was some question going into game 2 whether or not both players knew that the other was on Leylines. They both did bring in enchantment removal. But the fact that it is verified, they have seen Leylines, they have seen Nature's Claim or Golgari Charm or the other, that's going to more heavily assess how, impact how they assess their opening hands. It's likely that they already knew that. You know, these 2 teams are not just never talking to each other and they're watching the tournament. But I imagine that they did know it.
All right, so we look back at the sideboards. We know the plan. They both have basically Leylines and ways to answer them, otherwise just playing straightforward Dredge. Players are going to go fast here. Now keep in mind, this is the last match of the Swiss. After that, we're going to cut to the top 8. Now, we'll let you know who's in. Maybe you want to see that player, and we'll let you know the other decks in top 8. For those of you joining us here on StarCityGames.com or on Twitch TV, we have our Twitch subscription program. So you're a subscriber here with us in the feature match area, custom emoticons and a badge, and you'll get to decide what match we start out with on the coverage. And so how this works is, first of all, go over to Twitch. If you're a subscriber here, for us for the event, it's $5 a month. After the conclude, we go off the air after this round. In a half hour, we will post then what the 8 players in the top 8 and what the matchups are. A half hour after we go off the air, voting opens then as to where you'd like to see, who you'd want to see play, what match we'll watch. That voting stays open for 15 minutes, and then we, based on your votes, will show you those players and those matchups. So head on over now. You can subscribe immediately and be part of the voting. Twitch.tv/SCG Live.
Looking like we'll have some pretty good diversity in the top 8 as well.
Yeah, we already have Ad Nauseam in as the 1 seed. That's Sam Jaden.
Yep, potentially we could have Bant Spirits. We could have some Burn decks. Maybe Zoo we've seen at the top of the standings.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Caleb's in second going into this round, but his tiebreakers are actually very weak. If he doesn't win, he got paired down. If he doesn't win, he could miss this top 8.
That'd be really too bad going in second seed into the final round of a tournament and missing.
Yeah, I mean, it's because all these players are at such similar records. Caleb has 2 losses.
He's played against our 1 seed already. We had that match on camera. You can't have that pairing.
7 cards apiece. Jacob back on the play. The mulliganing, of course, so important here. Obviously, you want a leyline hand, but you're willing to keep, if you have a Nature's Claim hand is okay too.
Yeah, if you have like Faithless Looting or Neonate plus Grave Troll and the Nature's Claim, that hand's pretty great.
So at first I thought Jim was showing some leylines as a pregame action, and then I realized he was showing 3 Narcomoebas, and he's going to 6.
Woe is me.
You can't leyline your Narcomoebas into play?
I drew the cards in my deck.
That's what happens when you put cards like that in your deck.
You draw them.
Sometimes you draw them.
Talk to some players about Progenitus.
All right. So we near the end of Sunday here. Just going to take a second to tell you about the weekly sale we're running over at StarCityGames.com. This has been on standard singles, Kaladesh booster boxes, and Kaladesh bundles. Those are the fat packs, which have a spin down die, extra boosters in them. Those are now on sale at StarCityGames.com. We run a different sale every week. So that is still available through tomorrow morning at 10:59 Eastern. So if you're looking to pick up some Kaladesh, head over there now. And also stop by tomorrow afternoon and see what the sale is for the next week. Different one running each time.
That was exciting to find out what the next sale is. You can find some really good gems in here if you're in the market for any kind of singles, really. I take advantage of this for cubes, personally. Really great way to build cubes on a budget, get some good deals.
Jim looks at a 6, but no dice. He's the one going to 5 this time. Last game on the draw, Jacob Baugh had a 4-card hand.
It was a 4-card leyline hand. Jim had a 7-card leyline hand.
For our players champion, he's the captain of Team Metagame Gurus, back against the wall here. The 32-year-old from Long Island, New York, 11 open top 8s, 2 open wins, also 2 invitational top 8s. Interesting enough, if Jacob top 8s here, he will tie Jim's number of open top 8s. However, Jim, a regular streamer and a local DJ, really metagamed, I suppose, as his team name is, he metagamed the Players' Championship last year in such a great way. Went to the elimination rounds as the lowest seed, had correctly called out the Roanoke team's deck, had built his deck to beat it, and crushed through the elimination rounds.
Was hard casting some Ulamogs. Not every standard deck is ready for that sort of thing.
No, and that is where a lot of that strength comes from. Predicting their deck, building to beat it, and Jim was on point last year.
And that's what you're seeing Jim do right now. He believes that Dredge is the best choice in Modern. It's not generally his style, but he's playing the deck that he thinks can win.
Jim's keep, I think, 3 lands, Nature's Claim, something else. I mean, I suppose it's keepable because he hasn't answered a leyline. It just provides no defense, right? If Jacob just does the Dredge thing, Jim will lose to it.
Really relying on the top of his deck here. And if Jacob just kept a good Dredge hand.
Yeah, he's gonna run Jim out of the room. Because the issue with Leyline of the Void is it's not like Jim can top deck it.
Right. And he doesn't have anything to Dredge just yet. If those are on the top of his deck, it really stings. You just draw that and it's a blank.
Yeah, and I think he comes to the same conclusion. This hand doesn't beat anything. Yeah, if Jacob leylines him, then Jim can Nature's Claim it, and then we'll lose.
Yep. You know, and the odds of a 4-card hand winning are pretty low, but that hand just had nothing that he wanted. So you get 4 cards, and they might amount to something. You can't just put the entire game on the top of your deck.
At this point, I don't know. We saw Jacob lose on a mull before. Dredge can mulligan to some low numbers, and I'm not, to put the issue I think I'm going to run into here is the card Cathartic Reunion stops being playable at a certain point. You can't, and I don't mean like becomes bad. I mean Jacob had a 2-card hand with 2 Cathartic Reunions.
Literally couldn't cast it.
Yeah.
And in game 1, going down this low, I could see the player on 4 beating a 7. It could certainly happen.
Right.
In the leyline post-board sideboard games, really tough.
Dakmore Salvage, Stinkweed Imp, Narcomoeba, Insolent Neonate, something like that. I mean, Jim's shaking his head. That hand doesn't do anything. Jacob, you see, he knows this all too well. He says, yeah, I had to do the same thing last game.
Yeah.
Is there any 3 that Jim can win on?
So, land, Faithless Looting, Grave Troll. Assuming Baugh has no ley line.
Scry Nature's Claim to the top of your deck. The land is Mana Confluence. Boom.
You just discard Nature's Claim to Faithless Looting if it's on the top of your deck. Just
Okay.
pray against Leyline.
Insolent Neonate. Grave Troll. Nature's Claim on top. Mana
I'm pretty
Confluence.
big on the Baugh better not have a Leyline.
All right. Baugh, no ley line. Well, I'll even take Neonate Grave Troll land.
Sure.
All right. Yeah.
I think you're just asking way too much with this Nature's Claim business.
Wait. Leyline, land, Neonate, the Grave Troll's on top.
What about
Boom. That's better. That's better.
Leyline.
No, stop it. You're gonna get beaten up by a Narcomoeba with that hand, okay? You can't keep just up the line. There you go. Jim's got a ley line on the mull to 3. Is it gonna be good enough? Jacob's just gonna aggro him.
He's got a 1/1.
Jim kept land ley line. I actually really like that hand. It's I mean, okay.
Above average for a 3, right?
Yeah. Go back to Jacob. Look at all these cards. Where did they all come from? Jim goes to 19.
And it looks like Baugh just has a good dredge hand. I'm not seeing an answer to Leyline or a Leyline, obviously.
Another Neonate was his second play. I mean,
show me a Faithless Looting.
yeah,
A Cathartic
all right.
Reunion.
Jim could win here.
Let me feel something.
He'll fetch. He'll go down to 18. Yeah, Jacob, Narcomoeba in hand. I mean, there's still this. I guess if Jacob, discard and dredges here, it doesn't matter. There's a ley line in play. Another land. That's not what Jim wants, but he's only taking 2 a turn.
Sure.
He's got time. Copperline Gorge, go. Yeah, Baugh has nothing. Draws Copperline Gorge. He's got Bloodghast, Grave Troll, Narcomoeba.
And just 1 black source can't cast a Bloodghast.
2 Neonates swinging. This is a game.
No blue source can't cast an Narcomoeba.
I'm going to tentatively say we have a game. Now, the question I'm wondering is whether or not Baugh has a Nature's Claim. That was his first green source. The first turn he could have done it, and that does matter.
Big pickup for Davis here. Cathartic Reunion.
Perfect. He's got a Dredger in hand. He's got 2 cards to pitch to it. Yeah, game on. Let's do this.
Let's go.
I don't think we have any other options. Discard the hand, dredge the Dakmar Salvage, and hope one of these 2 cards is a Grave Troll.
Yeah.
Here we go. Cathartic Reunion. Can the mull to 3 do it? Discards both. Baugh's going to pause him. Baugh might claim right now. That doesn't matter. Dakmar Salvage, a dredge of 2. Cathartic Reunion. Is it a dredger? Life from the Loam.
Okay,
He's in
okay.
business.
3 more cards.
Loam. 3 more from Jim. Another Loam. Insolent Neonate. Okay, Leyland of the Void. That one's no good. But
What?
third draw, another Loam. Prized Amalgam. Land. Can he get Bloodghast? Stinkweed Imp. Okay.
Pretty good. He now has another dredger, and he has lands in his graveyard to get back with these loams. He's doing something.
Jim could win on this mull to 3. Oh boy. And it's not. Look, he was getting ready to try to discard. No, it's not even that. It's not Faithless Looting. No, you get to keep them, which is kind of good or bad. Here's the claim, though. The Nature's Claim, it was in Baugh's hand. He will take out that Leyline of the Void, and now he's going to start dredging. Here's sacrificing a Neonate. Gave Jim hope. Maybe not. Dredge of 6. 1, 2, 3 lands. A Cathartic Reunion, a Grave Troll, and another land. Okay, that's pretty weak. 4 lands, Reunion, Troll, but it'll play.
It's got another Neonate. He can keep spinning that wheel.
Yeah, Jacob's deciding if he wants to go again. I believe we are in Jim's second main, for the record.
Mm-hmm. Want to see if we can find some Narcomoeba amalgams and get those back for an attack.
He's just going to untap. Gets to dredge another Grave Troll this turn. Here's 6 more cards. Leyline, Land, Stinkweed Imp, Insolent Neonate, Loam. He is not finding any of the creatures. He's milling a lot of dredgers.
Mm-hmm.
They did not, and he didn't even mill a Faithless Looting.
Yeah, he's just got nothing to do to churn through his graveyard with this mana.
If he has maybe a Reunion in hand, none of this matters. But Neonate will swing Jim back down to 19. Remember, he gained 4 off that Nature's Claim. But Baugh's not doing anything. Mm-hmm. He's got to keep dredging. Neonate, sacrifice, discard and draw. Does he want, yeah. Discards, I like this. Discards Bloodghast, draw, dredges Loam. He wants to make sure he has a play. Faithless Looting, Amalgam, Cathartic Reunion. All right.
Right, this is actually great.
It's a start. It's a start. Loam will be cast by Baugh. He gets. There's got to be some lands in here. Yeah, there's plenty of them. He'll get
With
3
a
of them.
Gemstone Mine, he can cast this Narcomoeba, trigger the Bloodghast, get the Amalgam back.
All right. It took him a while. You're right. Gets 3 lands, 2 fast lands, and a Gemstone Mine. And looking good for Jacob. Not out of the woods yet. Some updates here. Jacob looking now to join teammate Kent Ketter in the top 8. Kent Ketter winning his match with Dredge. He is going to be in your top 8. So 1 card hoarder member already there.
And it looks like Baugh goes for the tapped Copperline Gorge, brings the Bloodghast and the Amalgam back along. Wants to do something with 2 green mana, I suppose is the plan here, or maybe wants to just hard cast a Golgari Grave Troll on the following turn. He's got a bunch of Neonates in his graveyard.
Yeah. Jim Dredge's Stinkweed Imp. Land, Neonate, Bloodghast, Cathartic Reunion, and land. So Bloodghast in the yard will trigger the 1 Amalgam Jim has. Keep in mind, we're now under 7 minutes. That clock up top is correct. Does Jim, he has Life from the Loam in hand. Gonna get some of those lands back. Copperline Gorge, Stomping Ground, and Bloodstained Mire. I'll take a fetch land. So all 3 lands into his hand. He picks them up. Most importantly, these lands will trigger the Bloodghast he milled this turn. Bloodghast comes out of the graveyard whenever you play a land, so Jim will play it. Gets back Bloodghast. That means on his end step, Prized Amalgam is going to come. He didn't actually play Stomping Ground. He played Copperline Gorge, so it's untapped. So gets the 2-1 and the 3-3. Now his board is matching Jacob's, but it's going to be Jacob's turn. Some big news.
Gonna see possibly a 5-mana giant troll entering the fray here.
Stinkweed Imp dredged by Jacob Baugh. We're under 6 minutes now. Leyline, land, Nature's Claim, Narcomoeba, and Bloodghast. Those last 2, those are winners. It's more creatures for Jacob. So Stinkweed Imp into his hand. He does have land 5 thanks to that Life from the Loam, but remember, the other 2 he got were...
He has the Gemstone Mine yet.
Gemstone
Yeah,
Mine.
because he didn't cast Narcomoeba last turn. So he set up to cast a Grave Troll or something else this turn.
3 mana. It looks like rather than casting anything, he just wants to go real big with the dredges. Here is Faithless Looting. He's going to flash it back, draw 2, discard 2. So first he draws the Stinkweed Imp, dredges 5. It's another Narcomoeba, and 4 misses.
And given that he's taken this line, he did leave a Narcomoeba in his hand. Not likely to be significant, but something that he left on the table.
Life from the Loam. That's actually his only dredge left here. He dredges 3 more. He does hit 2 Amalgams, though. And remember, those draws all happen simultaneously, so those Amalgams are going to see that Narcomoeba.
Pretty good.
He discards 2 to finish resolving the spell. It's some Grave Trolls. Now he resolves it. Here's Narcomoeba. Here's 2 delayed triggers off some Amalgams. 2 more 3/3s on the way. So I said the board was matched going into this turn, and Jacob pulls ahead again. A swing of Prized Amalgam and Bloodghast from Jacob Baugh. It's for 5. Jim takes it all. His 2-1 cannot block. He's down to 14. Do we see more plays from Jacob Baugh? Gemstone Mine, land for the turn. That gets Bloodghast out of the graveyard. Taps 2, he's going to just play Narcomoeba from hand. Sure, he has the blue mana off Gemstone Mine. And then 2 Prized Amalgam. So if you look at the damage, at the end of the turn here, Jacob, on that turn, he made 3 Narcomoebas, a Bloodghast, and 2 Amalgams. So
16.
11 power. That turn brings him up to 16.
16 total, and just 1 blocker for Davis at this point in time.
And Jim putting up a great fight for a mull to 3. But he's on the wrong end of things now. Jacob got the whole graveyard into the yard first.
And Baugh has not milled over his Scourge Devil. Unclear if it's even in the deck. I imagine it is. It seems pretty good for
it
punching
seemed really
through.
good game 1.
If he finds that with Grave Troll, there's nothing Jim will be able to do on this turn.
Jim dredging Life from the Loam. Here's 3 cards. He gets another Narcomoeba. But just look at the size here. So Jim has, 10 cards, 11 cards in his graveyard. And Jacob's graveyard is making a full L all the way across the battlefield. He's going to have to start looping around the top end of the screen soon. It's It's just a magnitude of difference.
And Jim made a game of it.
Yeah.
Despite mulliganing very low.
Casts Stinkweed Imp, plays Dakmor Salvage. 3 minutes remain in the round as Jacob Baugh untaps. This is our third game. Both these players looking to make their way into the top 8. Jacob will dredge again. Bloodghast, Prized Amalgam, Faithless Looting. It does look like Baugh has boarded out some, if not all, of his conflagrates at this point.
Yeah, not seeing any of those yet at this point in time.
So he has the last Amalgam in his deck is now in the graveyard. His hand, of course, is all the dredgers he's picked up. 2 Imps, a Loam, and a Troll. He actually can cast some of them.
Yeah. It doesn't look like he'll be able to set up trying to find Scourge Devil and actually unearth again on this turn. But he's a really good attack step, just shoving with all of his creatures here.
He'd need an untapped land to do it, which he probably doesn't have.
Right.
But he will swing the team. So 9 points off of the Amalgams, 4 more off the Bloodghasts, and 3 off the Narcomoebas is 16 total. Jim is going to have to start blocking.
He has to block at least 1 Amalgam here.
Yeah, he gets to block 3 creatures. Well, he could take from all the Amalgams.
I suppose, yeah, you make 3 other blocks.
He can. It's not good.
An Amalgam's worth of damage.
Right. So he lines up a block here, and you look at it, it is 12 damage that he's letting through with this current block of 2 Narcomoebas and a Bloodghast. He would go to 2 on this one.
And he can't really do much better than that. He has to trade the Narcomoeba if it's not just soaking up damage. So getting that Narcomoeba off the board, that's something.
A trade of Narcomoebas happened, and Jacob just loses 2 other creatures. But that hardly matters here. This has become just a burn race. Here's Life from the Loam, getting back 3 more lands from Baugh's graveyard. He will play Gemstone Mine. That Bloodghast is going to come back. He'll bring the 4th Prized Amalgam with him. This game looks like it is going to go for Jacob Baugh. 1 minute remaining. Remember, there are 5 turns at the end of the clock, and that shouldn't be a problem. Jacob should be able to win in those 5 turns.
Yeah, just 1 more attack step should do it. The Dredge deck is not very good at generating untapped blockers at any kind of efficient rate. Once you're behind on board, it takes you generally 2 turns to get caught back up.
So 2 Bloodghasts out of the yard for Baugh. He played the Gemstone Mine he'd gotten back with Loam. Taps 2 more, make that 3 more. Just going to cast a Stinkweed Imp. Sure, lots of blockers. Let's give himself an insurance policy, then puts the last Amalgam into play. Goes back to Jim Davis. This might be the champion's last turn. Dredges 5 off Stinkweed Imp, 5 lands, and to make that 4 in a Faithless Looting. Throws hands up. He can't do it. That is game and match. Jacob Baugh completes the run in 3. In the Dredge Mirror, that win takes him to 12-3. A strong record. Will it be strong enough? Jacob's going to have to wait and see.